All right, let's dive into something that's, absolutely critical for anyone building modern software today, the whole dance between data and microservices. We're going to explore how just a small shift in your thinking from what your data is to what your service does can completely unlock the real power of this architecture. So, look, you've probably spent years mastering relational databases. You know how to design schemas. You can optimize a query in your sleep. Your skills are legit. But what if in this new world of microservices, that exact expertise, that gut instinct to put data first is actually a trap? What if it's holding you back? And this really gets to the heart of it. With a monolith, you've usually got one giant shared database. It's like this central castle that everyone has the keys to. But with microservices, the goal is totally different. The dream is for each service to have its own little independent database. This separation is everything. And it's also where our first big challenge pops up. And that challenge leads us right into what I call the data-centric trap. This is where all those trusted habits, the things that have worked for years, suddenly start to cause some brand new, really gnarly problems. It's a totally fair question, right? I mean, designing your database tables first, that's how most of us were taught to build software. It feels so logical, so efficient. So what's the deal? Why does that thinking completely break down when you try to apply it to a distributed system? Well, the problem boils down to one nasty little concept: tight coupling. When you have a bunch of different services all pointing at the exact same database table, they get tangled up. It's like they're all tied together. So if the team for service A needs to change a column, suddenly they have to call a meeting with the teams for service B and service C because they all depend on that same table. And here is why that is such a disaster. This tight coupling completely torpedoes one of the biggest promises of microservices: independent deployability. The whole point is to let each team ship their service whenever they want without having to check with anyone else. If a simple database change forces a 3-team-wide meeting, you've completely lost the agility you were after. This data-first thinking also creates another really common problem. It encourages what are often called anemic CRUD-based services. Basically, these are services that don't really do anything interesting. They're just these thin, boring wrappers around a database table. And their only job is to create, read, update, and delete data. They have no real business logic. So, okay, if thinking about data first is the trap, how do you get out? Well, it's all about a fundamental shift in how you see the world. Instead of obsessing over the data you have, you start by focusing on what your service actually does, its capabilities. Let's make this real. Imagine a company we'll call Shipping Inc. Now, in the traditional, data-centric way, you might have an accounting service and the sales service, and they both need to know currency exchange rates. So the old way is to just create a currency table that both of those services can read from directly. Simple enough, right? But in the new way, the capability-centric way, you stop and you ask, what is the business capability we need here? The capability isn't a table, it's providing currency exchange rates. So you build a brand new dedicated currency service. It owns its data. Nobody else can touch it. And it exposes that capability through a clean, simple API. And the benefit here is it's just huge. Now, the accounting and sales services are loosely coupled. The team that owns the currency service can change its internal database. They can swap out data providers. They can deploy a dozen times a day. And the other services have no idea. They don't care. They just call the API. Independence is restored. That's the win. This shift in thinking is also our best weapon against those anemic CRUD-based services we talked about. It's all about focusing on behavior, not just data storage. It really comes down to the super simple 2-step mental model. First, you always ask, what does this service do? You have to define its capability, its behavior first. Only after you've nailed that down, then you can ask, okay, what data does it need to pull that off? This just completely flips the script from data first to behavior first. Now, this works great when it's simple, when one service owns one capability. But what about the really complex stuff? Like, what if you need to build a system-wide report that needs data from a whole bunch of different services? For that, we need to pull out some more advanced data patterns. The first pattern is a really cool one called event sourcing. Now, this is a bit of a mind bender at first. The idea is, instead of just storing the current state of something, like your bank account balance, you store the full, unchangeable list of events that got you there. The current state is just something you calculate from that history. Just think of a classic bank ledger. Saving the state is like only knowing your final balance is $100. It's useful, sure, but you've lost all the history. Saving the events is like having the full transaction list, the deposit of 120, the withdrawal of 20. You can still calculate the balance, but now you can also see exactly how you got there, which is incredibly powerful. And a pattern that often goes hand in hand with event sourcing is CQRS. And don't let the long name scare you. It stands for Command Query Responsibility Segregation. All it really means is that you create two totally different paths in your system. One that's optimized for writing or changing data, that's the command side, and a completely separate path that's optimized just for reading data, the query side. So here's how that might work. A service that manages shipments handles commands like ship this package, and it publishes these facts as events. It doesn't care at all how other services might want to read that data. Then, a totally separate reporting service can listen for those events and build its own specialized database, perfectly designed for whatever reports it needs to run. This separation keeps everybody independent and fast. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground here, from a really simple mental mistake to some pretty advanced architectural patterns. So, let's just boil it all down to the one thing you really need to remember. If you walk away with just one thing, make it this. To really win with microservices, you have to shift your brain from thinking about data to thinking about capabilities. Always ask, what does it do, before you ask, what does it store? You have to protect that independent deployability at all costs. And for those really tough, gnarly problems, keep advanced patterns like event sourcing and CQRS in your back pocket. And that's really the thought I want to leave you with. The very next time you sit down to design a new feature or a new service, just pause. Before you open up your database tool, ask yourself and your team, what is the core capability we are trying to build here? And how can we design a service that truly owns that capability, inside and out? And that's all for this explainer. If this helped you think a little differently about how you design your systems, do us a favor and hit like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into building better software. Thanks so much for tuning in.